lions hear the bullet hiss, but my man just yelled back, motherfucker, you missed.
Next on our list is a villain that has been severely underrated and underutilized in my opinion. Now in 1984, the supernatural comedy smash hit Ghostbusters dominated the silver screen for over 5 weeks straight. The quirky tale of 4 paranormal exterminators who operated out of the heart of New York City set the stage for a cultural phenomenon that took the world by storm. The Ghostbusters name and franchise was an unstoppable juggernaut that is still going strong to this day. After the incredible box office success of the original movie, Columbia Pictures decided to continue right where the movie left off, only this time in the form of an animated television series. Now, because of a dispute with the Filmation company releasing their own unique Ghostbusters property, Columbia decided to stake their flag on the IP by definitively branding the series as, quote, the real Ghostbusters, and the rest is history. The series ran for a total of 6 seasons, with hundreds of episodes under its belt. Much like in the movies, our 4 intrepid heroes faced off against all manner of demonic and paranormal threats that plagued the living world. One aspect that was unique about the Ghostbusters IP, in my opinion, was their willingness to explore some very dark themes for a supposed children's television program. One of the Ghostbusters' staple hallmarks of storytelling was their propensity to explore prophetic, end times, and apocalyptic elements. Many of their ghostly villains are near all-powerful demons and primordial gods who, at some point in their own mythologies, had been prophesied to bring about doomsday. One of these villains is the demonic god of Halloween, Samhain. In his first battle with the Ghostbusters, Samhain plans to bring about eternal night in the world by freezing time in order that Halloween night never ends. With the help of Slimer, the Ghostbusters capture the pumpkin-headed deity only for him to escape due to a breach in their containment unit. In their extensive rogues gallery, Samhain stood out to me as one of their more crafty adversaries. Samhain really embodies the all-powerful nature of Gozer, but at the same time the megalomaniacal attitude of Vigo the Carpathian. In the 2 episodes where he squares off against the Ghostbusters, Samhain tries to exert a degree of psychological despair and manipulation. He plays to the fact that he is an all-powerful god, and that our heroes are nothing but mere mortals. Samhain is the very personification of Halloween and is a testament that the fragile balance between the worlds of the living and the dead can never be taken for granted.
And you will join my midnight army, or pay the price.
Now, if you were a kid growing up in the early 90s, you simply couldn't get away from Darkwing Duck. Conceived as Disney's whimsical take on Batman, Darkwing Duck was at the top of the heap during the bygone days of Saturday morning kids programming. It tells the story of Drake Mallard, a citizen who prowls the night streets of St. Canard in the guise of his crime-fighting alter ego, Darkwing Duck. A direct spin-off of Disney's DuckTales, Darkwing proved to be a massive hit amongst audiences. It mixed exaggerated comic book noir with the classic Disney slapstick of yesteryear, but surprisingly also centered on themes of family, loyalty, friendship, and fears of abandonment. One of the more unforgettable elements of the show was Darkwing's colorful and zany rogues gallery of villains. Amongst my favorites were characters like Megavolt, the electricity-wielding mad inventor, Paddywhack, the demonic trickster trapped inside a cursed jack-in-the-box, and Taurus Bulba, a St. Canard mob boss turned unstoppable cyborg. But there is one villain that stands head and shoulders above them all in my opinion. That, of course, is the one and only Negaduck. Unequivocally stated as our hero's arch nemesis, Negaduck hails from a twisted mirror universe of St. Canard, aptly named the Negaverse. For a quirky and wacky villain from a Saturday morning cartoon, Negaduck was a shockingly accurate portrayal of a psychotic and deranged criminal mastermind. Now, most of his schemes have monetary gain as a secondary goal. His prime objective is simply to see Darkwing suffer. He takes great pleasure in the sowing of general chaos and expresses gleeful joy in the pain of others. This is further proved when we see that Negaduck is the ruler of his own dystopian version of St. Canard. He already has all the power, wealth, and dominance he claims he craves. His sole motivation is destruction and discord. Negaduck is truly malevolent and possesses all the classic traits of a true psychopath.
Oh, how can you be so heartless and cruel? Practice.
If there's one villain on this list that needs absolutely no introduction, you're damn right it's this one. The character of Darth Vader has come to embody ruthlessness, power, respect, and cold efficiency all in one. He has made several top lists as one of the greatest fictional villains of all time, and for good reason. Starting off life on the harsh desert planet of Tatooine, young Anakin Skywalker is recruited into the Jedi Order by Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his young apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi. After discovering that Anakin has a shockingly strong connection to the Force because of his abnormally high midichlorian count, Qui-Gon is certain that Anakin is the prophesied chosen one that will someday bring balance back to the Force. Later on in the lore, it is discovered that Anakin was literally conceived by the living Force itself without the aid of a human father. This was the result of the Sith Lord Darth Plagueis and his obsession with finding immortality through the use of dark side alchemy. Now, this caused the Force to respond with a counterbalance in the form of Anakin Skywalker. Using Anakin's mounting self-doubt, inner turmoil, and increasing despair, the future Emperor Sidious begins to groom and mold Anakin from almost the very moment he is inducted into the Jedi. After years of psychological manipulation at the hands of the Dark Sith Lord, Anakin finally turns his back on the Jedi and becomes an instrumental part of Sidious's diabolical Order 66. He helps his new master to completely wipe out the Jedi Order and bring forth a new and terrifying galactic empire. He is only brought back to redemption years later by his son, Luke Skywalker, at the culmination of the great galactic civil war that sees Darth Sidious and the Empire finally defeated. Along with the Emperor, Vader was the one responsible for my deep fascination with the Sith. Now for me, respect came in the form of a raspy-voiced cyborg with a black helmet, a cape, and a red lightsaber.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
In the early 1990s, Warner Brothers were enjoying unbridled success with a slew of animated programming. But arguably their best outing came in the form of Batman the Animated Series. Coming off the heels of Tim Burton's gritty adaptation of The Caped Crusader in 1989, Warner Brothers sought to continue their dominance on the small screen. Needless to say, Batman the Animated Series was a smash hit, each episode delivering a dose of superhero action mixed with dark and gripping commentary that left young audiences spellbound, myself included. But not to be outdone, the executives over at Disney took sharp notice of Batman's success and launched a bold and ambitious new plan for their own serious and dark tale aimed at a slightly older demographic. Often cited as Disney's answer to Batman, Gargoyles burst onto the scene on October 24, 1994. From the onset, this imaginative fantasy modern action thriller captivated the minds of a generation. Gargoyles is set in a world of dark magic, gods, and monsters that are hiding beneath a thin veneer of the so-called normal world. It tells the tale of Goliath and his small clan of humanoid reptilian creatures who hibernate as stone statues during the day and imposing demon-esque warriors by night. They were betrayed by the humans they trusted and were put under a curse that trapped them in their inanimate stone forms for over 1,000 years. During the course of the show's action-packed 3-season run, Goliath and his clan faced a menagerie of maniacal, cunning, and deranged villains who tested our winged heroes to their absolute limits. However, in and amongst their many sociopathic adversaries was one that stood out to me. None other than Gilcomgain, the original hunter. Starting out life as a simple stable boy in the 10th century Scotland, Gilcomgain was responding to a strange noise in one of his father's stables. Investigating the sound, the gargoyle known as Demona, driven by petty thievery due to the destruction of her clan, jumped out and slashed the boy across the face, scarring him for life. Convinced that it was a demon from hell that attacked him, Gilcomgain swore vengeance on the entire gargoyle race for his injuries. Several years later, Gilcomgain has grown into a skilled and ruthless combatant who hires out his lethal services as an assassin for hire. When the conqueror known as Constantine took over the throne of Scotland, Gilcomgain and his father were quick to establish themselves in his high court. After his father is killed in battle, Gilcomgain is tricked into believing that he died at the hands of another counter-revolutionary known as Finlay. Vowing vengeance against Finlay, Gilcomgain steals a mask made by Constantine that was made by the ruler because, ironically enough, he was inspired by the former scars. It is here that Gilcomgain formally adopts the persona of the Hunter, taking on the dual role of political assassin and gargoyle slayer. Wearing his new costume and mask, Gilcomgain hunts down Finlay and successfully kills him, but earns the ire of Finlay's son, Macbeth. Sometime later, Gilcomgain comes under the employ of Prince Duncan, Macbeth's own cousin who keeps the Hunter as his own personal bodyguard. After an argument between Gilcomgain and his employer, Duncan decides that his disobedient henchman needs to be dealt with. Duncan tells Macbeth that it was indeed Gilcomgain that killed his father, which sends Macbeth into a rage. He confronts Gilcomgain and the two engage in a vicious sword fight, to which Gilcomgain quickly gets the upper hand. Just before Macbeth is struck down, Demona saves him at the very last second, and the two fight Gilcomgain together, which finally results in the assassin's ultimate death. But the legacy of the Hunter would not die with Gilcomgain. The Hunter's mask and mantle would be adopted by Prince Duncan himself, who would gleefully carry on the Hunter's murderous mission into the future. He in turn passes the mantle on to his son, Canmore, and it is the future descendants of Canmore that would turn the mantle of the Hunter into a generational title that would pass from father to son through the Canmore bloodline. Through the centuries, the Hunter's mantle would evolve into a fanatical holy war in which the Canmore family vowed to wipe out the entire gargoyle race from the face of the earth. They specifically focused their hatred of Demona as the focal point of their mission. Through the years, she would be known by the Canmores as the Immortal Demon, the result of her being cursed by a coven of witches with everlasting life.
Finlay, High Steward of Moray, is dead, as you commanded.
If there was ever a villain that I truly feared as a child, it was the frightening demon mummy known as Mumm-Ra. Now, while I explained in the previous video that I wasn't a particularly big fan of He-Man, the Thundercats was quite another story. Followed closely by the Ghostbusters, Thundercats was my all-time favorite series growing up as a kid. The adventures of this group of feline-inspired space warriors captivated my young mind like no other. Now, just hearing that iconic opening theme as well as the Lion-O chant of
Thundercats!
Just sent me into a tizzy. But since I'm particularly a villain guy, it was the character of Mumm-Ra that most fascinated me. Now in the show itself, he isn't given that much of a backstory, so we're left wondering just how this badass baddie actually came to be the chief antagonist of Third Earth. Now according to the published comics Thundercats Origins, Mumm-Ra began as Wahonk, a royal servant to a dynastic pharaoh-like ruler of Third Earth. With treacherous intentions, Wahonk plans to summon 4 all-powerful demonic spirits to help him overthrow his pharaoh and take the kingdom for himself. After Wahonk devotes his eternal servitude to the 4 ancient spirits of evil and a promise to remake the kingdom in their image, the servant receives a tiny fraction of their cosmic power, which transforms him into a decaying and deformed sorcerer that will come to be known as Mumm-Ra. He engages the forces of the pharaoh but fails to summon enough power to successfully overtake the kingdom. He is ultimately defeated by the pharaoh's son and mummified alive in a dark tomb within the accursed Black Pyramid. Mumm-Ra is further punished by the 4 ancient spirits of evil and is commanded to build 4 colossal statues in their likeness if he ever wants to be free from the Black Pyramid. After 600 years of grueling labor, Mumm-Ra finally completes his task and is once again granted access to the power of the ancient spirits of evil. When the Thundercats crash land on Third Earth, Mumm-Ra senses the magic of the Eye of Thundera that is embedded in the hilt of the mystical Sword of Omens. It is this powerful talisman that becomes Mumm-Ra's sole obsession in acquiring it. With the Eye of Thundera, Mumm-Ra believes he can finally break free of his eternal servitude to the ancient spirits of evil and rule over all of the galaxy himself. Like I said, Mumm-Ra terrified me as a kid. Now, unlike some of the other hokier villains on the show, Mumm-Ra was a truly sinister threat who seemed to be the very personification of evil. He was as insidious as he was badass. But there is one truth about Mumm-Ra that fits him better than perhaps any other villain on this list. He best embodies the notion of questioning everything and trusting no one. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed this list. We'll talk to you next time.
Ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed form to Mumm-Ra.